Hello. Um, Before I say anything, I'm not saying this to try to bash anybody or a certain group of people because I know not everyone that belongs to a certain group is guilty of it. There's plenty of them, rather than fact, has the attitude, that live and let live attitude. You do you, all to me. We'll just agree to disagree and leave peacefully. And for those that are like that, thank you. Okay. But what I want to talk about is some arguments that not all, but that a lot of atheist agnostics and some anti-theists love to use against Christians, but it's not for it's not more so for debate or anything, but it's more so just to bash Christians. And a lot of these arguments I find a bit illogical. That does not really help their side of things whatsoever. And it doesn't really, make them look smart. All it does is just make them look hateful and, well, very ignorant. Because it's not about trying to get to the truth. It's more so it's all about, just bashing Christians because they just don't like Christians. Now, granted, there are some self proclaimed Christians who are bad also about doing that to atheists as well, which I also don't agree with. I don't agree with that. It's not right no matter um, what side of the aisle you're on. But I am hoping, though, that maybe um, some people, could hear this and understand, well, then maybe this doesn't really help, this side as much as they think it does. The first one I want to talk about, and by the way, before I say anything, I am gonna have to do this part two, part three, so on, because it's phone that I'm using, and I'm sorry about that. I would like to just put it all in one, but that's just how it goes with this phone. But anyway, the first one, which I have not written down, is they and I've seen this many times, on YouTube comments or whatever. They would ask Christians, tell me about Christianity or show me proof of God. But as soon as someone mentions the Bible, or mentions scripture, they say, don't tell me about the Bible. I didn't ask for the Bible. Don't show me Bible references or whatever. How am I supposed to explain to you about my faith in God if I can't talk about the Bible? I mean, how about I ask you to tell me about Darwinism without telling me about Darwin or mentioning any books that Darwin has written or show me any references of Darwin whatsoever? You would not be able to do that because the basis of your, faith in evolution is Darwin. And even when people try to send references or resources of evidence of God, like archaeological evidence that backs the Bible, or things that talks about end time prophecies of prophecies that are actually occurring today in our lifetime, whatever, then they're like, don't show me that. I'm not gonna look into it. I have no interest. Then why would you ask me? Again, what if I said to you, tell me about Darwinism. I'm interested to know about it. Tell me more about Darwinism, and you're trying to do that, and I say no. Don't show me that. Then you could rightfully say to me, then why would you ask? Look, I would love for, people to want to ask more about Jesus and stuff, for their own soul's sake. So they'll realize, so they can understand how much God does love them and they could be saved. But if they're not willing to hear, then don't waste my time. I'm sorry, but don't waste your time. Don't waste mine. If you really don't want to know, if you don't care to try to know, then don't ask. But a lot of atheist agnostics like to use this against Christians, and when they have that attitude, they think that doing that somehow helps them win the argument. I'm sorry, but that doesn't. It doesn't. All it does, all you're doing is making yourself ignorant and arrogant. That's all you're accomplishing. You're not accomplishing putting the Christian down, making them look stupid. Rather than you're doing the opposite. You're making yourself look stupid. You're not making the Christian look stupid. You're making yourself look stupid. I'm not saying that to be mean, but I'm just letting you know that's what that's all you're accomplishing. The second argument they like to use, which I find very, very distasteful, and they love to use this constantly, even when the subject has nothing to do with it. We're not talking about it whatsoever. But they love to randomly say a bunch of times. They love to categorize all Christians as perverts, basically. I'm not going to deny the fact that there are proclaiming Christians who have unfortunately done terrible things. And they're called wolves in sheep's clothing. I mean, Jesus said that whosoever were to harm one of these little ones, it'd be better for him to be hanged by the neck and tossed in the sea. Hanged by a millstone, tossed in the sea. For me, the wolves in sheep's clothing are the ones who deserve that more than anybody else. Who's guilty of it. But not every single Christian, not all of us is guilty of not every person that says they're Christian is guilty of those things. Why am I getting blamed for something somebody else did? Why is this church getting blamed for something that another church did? I agree with you. If something like that is going on at a church, regardless of what church that is, yes, whoever is guilty of it should be not only tossed out of the church doors, but it should be also tossed in a jail cell. Not by the cops, but by the churchgoers. But not everyone is guilty of that. And there's plenty of people who would not support it, and that would not protect the guilty. And you have to understand, there are a lot of Christians, including me, who actually suffered from being raped or molested as children. And what if you're talking to one? What if you're throwing an argument against a Christian who has suffered that, and that Christian didn't suffer that from another Christian, but rather an atheist? Funny how you never mention that. Funny how they never ever mention that there are atheists that are also guilty of that. Give you an example. Ask Moira Grayland. Moira Grayland, who had atheist parents, who were famous authors. She is a famous musician. Look up her story. Both of her parents were atheists, and both of them hurt her in that way. And guess where she found peace? Not in atheism, but God. I'm sorry, but I get it. It has happened. And I agree it shouldn't happen. But not all Christians are guilty of it. We're not all guilty for something that other people did. Just like you're not guilty for something all others did. I mean, what if I went around and called all Darwinists Nazis? Wait, what do you mean? Oh, you didn't know? Hitler was all for Darwin. That was his basis of the whole Nazism movement. I know some like to argue that it was Christianity, but no, it was not Christianity.